vacante bueno zo. Y bueno zo, y bueno zo, y bueno zo. Y bueno zo, los vacante bueno zo. Y bueno zo, y bueno zo, y bueno zo. Y bueno zo, los vacante bueno zo.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to another edition of On Point. I am Jerome Gamer, your host, and with me are the two qualified folks to talk on any issues as it relates to issues in Liberia. My partner, Jimmy Eastman, Mr. Michael Patmore. We are here to discuss issues. We are going to examine some of the issues surrounding the elections in Liberia, its implications, and we are also going to be talking about the Republic of Liberia was selected by President Biden as it relates to food security in Africa. And finally, we are going to be discussing and dissecting what's happening at LPRC. There were 1.5 million gallons of diesel fuel that disappeared, according to the news. We will delve into that. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Patmore, let's start with you. How are you in your neck of the woods?
I am doing great. It's great to be here on this good Sunday. Hope you all guys are doing well. I'm excited to talk about Liberia, our common patrimony, and hopefully we'll have a great conversation.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, before I go to Mr. Eastman, we ask you to please share this show. Please share on your website, in your chat room, your organizations, and let it be interactive. Mr. Eastman, I know you have shared this show. You're asking your friends to share this show. Now tell us about where you are and how your July 4th weekend beginning, or how far you have gone in that part of the world.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Game. I'm coming to you from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. We have a bright sunny day on this 3-day weekend. On the Monday will be July 4th. That, as everybody knows, will be the American Independence Day. So it's a hot day. People are out there grilling hamburgers, hot dogs. But our issues in Liberia are just as hot. So I'm honored to be here to be able to discuss the national issues concerning Liberia.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Padmo, before we delve into the issue, I want to make an announcement here. Hopefully we all can begin to promote this from next week. It's going to be very informative. It is not political as per se, but it's cultural, and it has something to do with human rights. We are talking about a new topic that Honorable Fonati Kofa has introduced in the House about female genital mutilation. Before we go into our topic, I think that particular topic is overdue. We all should coalesce around our cause. What do you think, Mr. Eastman, before we go into our topic? When you're done, then Mr. Padmo can chime in on it, then we'll go right into our topics.
You know, I think we've touched articles about our cultural heritage. A lot of things in African culture, we learned it and they were passed down to us. But as we grow into a more modern society, if those cultural practices, if some of them are ill, not worthy for us to continue practicing because of some harm they bring to us, then we have to desist. We have to be able to put the well-being of our people above culture, and know when and that certain things that we do are unscientifically based, are inherently cruel to human dignity and body. And when these things clash with what we believe today, then we have to do away with these cultural practices. Definitely, this thing should have been stopped a long time ago. There's no scientific reason for doing it. And whatever cultural reason that established it long past, it is outmoded, and we should now discontinue it completely.
Mr. Padmore, here we are. People, those who are in favor of this barbaric act will say it is our culture, it's our culture. But you, as a student of history, you know that we all came out of the cave. There were things that were culturally enhancing, no longer exist. So we don't do those things anymore. We can keep our culture, what is good about our culture, we can keep, and those things that need to be modified need to be modified. What is your take on that particular subject?
Well, so I'll come from different perspectives. Whether as a healthcare professional, whether as a parent, and whether as just a fellow cultural Liberian. We've learned over our short existence that we've evolved. Okay, and it has always been best, even when it's difficult, for us to continue to evolve. A lot of our cultural disciplines, we noted, have been very misogynistic, and we've gone past that, where we seek to empower our other half. And things that are not beneficial to women should be done away with. It should be done away with respectfully. I don't think anybody should be demonized. I don't think anybody should be, called out or, try to be blamed for things. I think as a mature society, we should sit down, we should discuss it, we should see what's wrong with it, and we can all agree to move past that and move forward with better things for our better half. And that's where I stand on the issue.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, that will be the topic for next week. We are working on bringing female journalists, female educators, people who are very informed on this subject, so it doesn't become a male issue, even though it is basically it is a social pressure brought about by men. Just like we are talking about women bleaching. Women bleaching is not a woman thing. It is women doing it to please men. So when you look at it from the sociological imagination standpoint, it is not a woman. It's not a woman issue. It is a male issue. So we're going to discuss the next Sunday. It will be very, very informative. We want you to be interactive. Now that we have said that, let's go to our topic for today. Number one, we have always, from the time we have been children, young folks, you that went to Monrovia College, BWI, CWA, you can give this to Liberia. Every school, whether parochial or whatever, we have always had some form of governmental practice. We have always had student council. We have always had elections. We have gone through the drill. We were taught civics. Those of us who are much older, we know how important civics was to our establishment and our well-being. So we know how then every child took part into civics. We took part into elections. So we know the importance of elections. Now, Mr. Padmore, the past, let's say, 9 months, we have gone through series of elections. We went through the election, then we went through the political process, then we went through the judicial process, and you know what happened. We don't have to rehash the Brownie Samokai thing. And then finally, here we are. The Supreme Court ruled that yes, the people of Lofa County deserve a second senator, and the elections should be held. And we were given the blessing. Everybody was given enough time. Everybody camping. And this is where we are. What happened in Lofa County, Mr. Padmo, since you had a microphone, let's talk about what happened and then we go from there. What happened in Lofa County?
In Lofa County, it's very simple. The people of Lofa spoke. The people of Lofa spoke. The people of Lofa County made a decision, a democratic decision on who they wanted to lead them. They made that decision not based on tribe. They made that decision not based on a demand by older people to interject themselves on the entire county. They made an informed decision, and I'm glad that the Liberian people are seeing it. I'm hoping that other counties, people from other counties, are watching, and I'm hoping this actually starts a revolution in Liberia, where voters go into the voting booth and vote their conscience instead of voting who the chief said they should vote for. But I believe that's what happened. Lofa people made a choice.
Mr. Eastman, a week ago we were here and my partner, my co-host, Mr. Thule, emphatically said, Mr. Gaiman, CDC and the opposition, and the government are wasting their time. Lofa County is a traditional county. Whomever hands Joseph Walker left, it is a win. You are wasting your resources. You are wasting money. It is a foregone conclusion. The folks of Lofa will repudiate. He used that word. They have repudiated the president, and everybody that is attached to him are going down. Here we are. The folks in Lofa County have spoken. What did you see in that decision that was made in Lofa?
Thank you. The Lofa race was very, very interesting. Okay, so let's see who all had their feet through the hat in the race. We had a UC back candidate. All right. We had a couple of independent candidates. Fofana was independent. Jala was independent. Okay. And what we saw, that what I appreciate about this race, this was a race amongst low funds. Okay, you see there was a difference between outside influence and cultural influence. Okay, the Lofa people are very cultural and they respect their culture to the hilt. Now, what surprised me was why the UP party, in the person of Honorable Vice President. Why did Boca and the UP party support Katima? Because the VP had told his people prior that we need a representative from the South and we need a representative from the North, both to go to the Senate. So Samakai was that representative that was from the South. So with the taking of the borrowing of Samakai to the Senate, definitely he should have replaced it with another person from the South. But instead, they picked another Northerner. Now, this is what I think, where I think UP really, really lost, because they did not follow their tradition to have one from the South, one from the North. And that's who the people from Lofa are, very loyal. This is how we do it, and this is how we should practice it. Why are you telling us today that we should go away from that practice? Of course, too, we saw the CDC fight a proxy election. They put all their efforts behind Jala. And they went there with full force. I don't think they even support their own candidates any more than they did him. So we saw that strategically CDC backed Jala to take the win out of the UP sale. They did it to make sure that in upcoming elections, the UP would not be seen as powerful going forward. They did it to test the battleground before until 23, so that they can see if they actually, they're the force of UP. And they did it right in their own backyard. I think it was very strategic and for political. I think CDC has shown a very high level of political maturity and strategy, and they are going to always be hard to beat. Lastly, UP was on their own now. I'm not sure if UP measured the advantage they had when they were coalition as CPP. There are members of other political groups that could have probably helped them win in Lofa, but instead they were all alone there. They went solo. And I think that was the third thing that affected them. And I didn't think they strategically took all those things into mind. And so hence they were handed with a slight margin of failure. They failed slightly, but had they gotten their other parties, had the other parties been in joint coalition with them, had they properly done their homework in the selection of the candidate, I think they would have seen a much better result.
Thank you. Okay. Real quick, let me recognize some of the folks here. Matt in Liberia is on here. Thank you for watching. Moses Peso, thank you for watching. Dr. Pajibo out of Ghana is watching. Facebook user, thank you. These are folks that always watch our show. Mr. Padmore, let's look at what Mr. Eastman just talked about. There's something in politics that they call management of expectations and management of success. Now, do you think the success of the CPP in Montserrado and other parts of the country when Cumming was the chairperson of the CPP, you think the successes that the CPP enjoyed was mismanaged by people who said, well, CDC is dead. We don't need, I can beat them by myself based on what I saw. Talk to me about the mismanagement of people who just don't know how to manage success. Talk to me about the disintegration of the CPP.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goodman. Thank you very much. And I'm happy that you mentioned that. I didn't want to be the one to mention that. I'm happy that you mentioned that. When the CPP enjoyed its most success, it was under the tutelage of Mr. Alexander B. Cummings. Okay? And people forget that. They forget that. Look, sometimes you see people do things, they do it so well that you think, oh man, I can do that, man. It's easy. It's easy to do. And of course, you run off to think you can do it. And then you are whipped. And then you finally realize that it's not as easy as he made it seem. You know, going through a process, respecting what the people are telling you, finding a common ground, and then after doing that, going through the process of it from beginning to end. And I'm hoping we'll get to that point. The process of the whole election cycle, not just the campaign, but election day, and all of the responsibilities that a party that has a candidate in the race has to go through. You know, and people took that for granted. And United Party took that for granted. They thought that, oh, if Mr. Cummings can do it, you know, if Alexander Cummings can do it, then obviously, you know, we can go into Lofa and we can replicate the same thing. And they saw that was not the case, you know. They saw that was not the case. Sheer arrogance, that they didn't even listen when the Lofa people told them it's time for a Bani man. Nobody listened. Nobody listened. When they said Kotima is from the north, nobody listened. You know, when other people or other partisans within the United Party suggested that they find a way to draw Jala closer and let Jala be the candidate. Nobody listened. Sheer arrogance. And now this is where they are. They finally they didn't even know how to come around. But
Well,
that's what it is.
okay. Let me welcome Riverside Pro and Augustine. We have Riverside Pro here. We got Augustine T. Musa. Welcome to the show. We appreciate your participation. Mr. Eastman, politics is not all about name recognition. It's not all about tradition. It's a combination of a lot. Now let's talk about the CDC. We are talking about a group of folks that say basically they are cultured, they are primed, they are entitled to leadership because of their status, because of their elitism, or because of their association with elitism. And they are saying, we don't need anybody else. Because like we always say in sports, it's always a team effort. You may be the captain, you may be the MVP, but it's never an I thing. So here we are. Unity Party decided to drop the ANC, to drop everybody else that were part of it, and say these people got no numbers. In fact, they said we had 480, whatever the number was the last time. Those people are in a locked box, like our God used to say. When we're ready, we will open the box. Nobody have died since. There's no new voter registration. We are going to beat these people. We don't need anybody. And they turn out to be a political, I would say, a death blow to Joseph Boakai and the Unity Party henceforth.
Well, okay, definitely. There is strength in numbers. Everybody knows that. And to UP's benefit, I would say that there was some conflict in the CPP, and they decided to go it alone. What I see is the failure of UP, most especially Ambassador Wakai, to manage to keep that UCPP together is why they are seeing what they're seeing today. The CPP was Wakai's vehicle, even though people chanting that it was a Cummings thing, but it was Wakai's vehicle to. And for whatever reason, why he did not want to contest, or why they did not want to go to convention and elect a standard bearer, whereby he, the popular one, should have easily won, was a mistake on his part. That is what should have happened. He should have gone to this convention. Whoever comes out victory, he was most likely going to be victory since he has more numbers. But they suspected each other. They didn't trust each other. They say some were playing in the background, in the backyard of Madame Sirleaf. They had all sorts of rumors going on. They ended up not trusting each other, and it led to the disintegration of the CPP. I think that wasn't there. That was their first mistake, because that was their only. They have to be together if they were going to beat the incumbent CDC, as strong and powerful as they are, as charismatic as the president is. They needed a united front to do it. And they saw that in the beginning, but neither of them were ready to put Liberia first and stay together. Whoever wins, wins. So today, yes, and I agree with what Mr. Padmo said. We also saw some mismanagement. It looks, some of these things, decisions we make may look easy. But when you have a seasoned strategist or seasoned manager behind the scenes, and providing resources to make sure certain everything is covered. You see, like in project management, you make sure you cover every aspect of the project. When you have somebody who knows how to keep their hands on everything, it may look easy. But when it's your turn to do it and you're not used to managing the minor details and you let it fall out of your hands, then you have to take the blame. So this is what happened in Lofa. It was a battle loss. This is what happened in CCP. It was another battle loss for no reason, and that is simply because you didn't manage it well. So that's how I look at it.
Okay. Let's welcome Profiling Liberia, Lawrence Power, Sebastian Tickler. Okay, so here we are, Mr. Patmore. We are hearing, and let's put yourself in the CDC war room 6 months ago, knowing that Omer Boakai, former VP Boakai, is very, very popular, and you know very well it would be a Herculean task to beat him in his own home court. And here you are, Mr. Patmore. I am putting you in charge of coming up with a strategy. Like we said, whomever it was that said, for us to defeat this man in his own home court, we need to split the votes in his own stronghold. Mr. Patmore, talk with me about that strategy.
All right, thank you. So the first thing we have to understand is that CDC recognized certain things. The CDC brand coming out of the senatorial elections was damaged. Okay, they were damaged. They understood that part, and they understood that if they went into Lofa with the CDC brand, it wasn't going to be good for them. It was going to be a negative connotation. So the first thing they decided, we're not going to go into Lofa as CDC. We'll find a candidate to back. We are not going to even send George Weah into Lofa. We will not make this a George Weah CDC thing. We'll find another candidate to back. And then decided, in the search for candidate, why not find the person that has come second in the last 3 elections? Brilliant move. Okay? And then when we come with that person, we're not sending CDCO. We're going to send the sons of Lofa. We'll send Fala. We'll send Moba Molu. We'll send Jefferson Koji. We'll send Fina Bondo. And so they sent individuals, the sons of Lofa. They say, you go talk to your people. And then let's provide the necessary financial, need to get this guy over the hump. And it was a brilliant move. It was a brilliant plan. You have to give hands up to CDC. Whoever sat down and masterminded that is a brilliant political strategist, and it sends a very tough signal to the opposition. And CDC is not going to go into 2023 with their hands tied behind their back. They have their strategy. They've implemented it once. They see it's going to work, and that's only a tip of the iceberg. They have more, But if I was in the war room, that was what I would be thinking.
Excellent.
That was what CDC was thinking, and it.
Okay, I think Mr. Eastman, you chime in here. The brilliance of, you see, I think Mr. Patmore talked about something that had to do with ego a while ago. These are men who decided we don't need to put our egos on display here by saying we are CDC, we are the biggest gorilla in the room, we're beating our chest. Let's take a back seat and find somebody formidable, somebody that had done a lot of work, name recognition, and let us just take the back seat and let that person go. This is what politicians do. It's not about the ego. It's about looking at the bigger picture. Okay? In America here, they say the NAACP say, keep your eye on the prize. Okay? The bigger prize is to win. It is not who win per se. It is winning. And they did that. This is what the UP is lacking. The ego, they are not willing to put their ego aside. Like when somebody said, if Cummings is here, why don't we work with Cummings in whatever way? Instead, from the very get-go, they castigated him as a foreigner, as a stranger, as a nobody, and yet and still they were using and utilizing all his resources. Not only ungratefulness, but this is dishonesty. So here we are, what in our Liberian parlance we say God don't like ugly. You treated this man nasty, you treated his people, everything they have done, you didn't give them any respect or give them credit for anything that you enjoy. And you went on your own, you fell flat on your face. Then you turn around and say, why they are laughing? Go ahead, Mr. Eastman.
They say pepper can't hide in dog eye, you know. Again, we can't beat. We're just going to beat this horse to death. Their victory in the 2020 election, they had CPP saw numerous victories, and for you to see that you have such a formidable force, and for you to see that you have such success, for you to break that up, I have to question your judgment. Why would you have? I mean, something people say, "What ain't broke, don't fix it." People say, if respect the process. Why would you break up something you have achieved such success in? And if you call it arrogance on a party of one, it could be. Remember what we say in Liberia: unity is sure. Victory is sure in unity. Where did they not think that way when they were breaking themselves up? I believe too that because of their this lapse in judgment, it was a revelation that they were not ready. It was a revelation that they were not prepared to lead, because they were prepared. If they were leading the country and they allowed their arrogance to exceed their interests, then they would have taken the country in a negative direction. So this lapse in ability to manage, and lapse in ability to prioritize and know what is important and appreciate everybody. Well, let's talk about the body. The body is composed of several parts. You have your eyes, your nose, your ears, and each one of those parts important. Now, for whatever reason, if you think where you were supposed to release your feces or your not important, let it close up, and you'll find out if the rest of the body can function. Every part of that body is very important. And that's where they failed to realize, and they didn't keep it together. Just all they had to do was 2 more years to try to keep it together, and they could not. So,
Mr. Patmore, now let's real briefly, let's talk about the implications here. What has this done to the opposition? What has this done to the possible coalition or I don't know whether it is reconcilable. I don't know whether it's even possible to have the same actors in the same theater anymore. What are the implications to this particular defeat and organizational breakdown?
Okay, so first let me speak on the side of opposition, and then I will talk about the implications from the part of the ruling party. As the opposition, I think now this was a necessary evil. This was a necessary defeat that needed to happen to humble certain people, because I believe that One of the flaws of the CPP was that when they came together, they didn't come together as equals. Okay? UP was always seen as the bigger brother because they believed they had the numbers. They believed they were the largest party. So they looked down upon others, within the coalition and the collaboration. But because of that arrogance, that assumption, it was the major flaw within the CPP. If there is to be any sort of remarriage of political parties now, it will have to be one amongst equals. Because you can't come by now with I get no more. That slight leverage that you had, that people gave you credit for, it's gone. You can't come with it anymore. So it will have to be a marriage of equals. With everybody understanding that everybody here is of equal stature. Everybody here has their shortcomings, and we are coming together to see how best we can defeat the ruling party. And I think that is the most stark implication of everything, of what happened in Lofa. When it comes to the CDC, and let me tell you why. What happened? What CDC has taken on the posture of the Unity Party. CDC now believes they have the magic formula. CDC now believes what we did in Lofa, we can replicate that in all over the country. That's a very false premise. Because going into 2023 is going to take work. And if CDC goes into 2023 with any sort of arrogance that, hey, all we got to do is A, B, and C, and we'll win every county, they will lose. And they will lose just how Unity Party lost.
Thank you very much. Let's welcome Sam Wallow here. And Mr. Marvin Carter. Mr. Marvin Carter wants to know what happened to my co-host. I understand everybody were coming here to see my co-host yelling, screaming, and defending Joseph Boyka. Well, Mr. Carter, Mr. Tule is still trying to come from FOIA. So when he gets here, we'll discuss it. Well, Mr. Isma here, before we go to our next topic here, one thing that I listened to another political pundit in Liberia from the opposition, he said, I learned a lot from the CDC strategy this time around. He said, because when we beat them massively in the 2020 election all around the country, they didn't just sit on their laurels. They didn't feel sorry for themselves. They began to strategize and go into some of these places where they lost massively and begin to engage, to work, to plant seeds that will bear fruit. He says, and this is one of the areas, he says, I want to inform my uncle Joseph Boyka that what these boys have begun in Lofa County. Don't think now they're going to take their foot off the pedal. They are going full blast in Lofa County. So Joseph Boyka should think about his options. Do we find a young, vibrant opposition to take our place, or am I going to go back there with the same thing as I'm the elder statesman I need, or it's my turn? You talk to me about that posture of what CDC have done by going into the opposition stronghold, beating him there, and not taking their foot off the pedal. Now that they got his foot on his neck, per se.
Very good. I like your initial statement that CDC had some internal reflection after the massive defeat in Monserrate County. It is important when you fail or you're not successful, you re-examine where you went wrong, and that is truth about of any procedure. Sometimes you have to reverse engineer our entire procedure to find out where it went wrong. So that's important. And let's think about who CDC is. CDC been around since about 12 years now.
17.
17? Yes, for the last 12 years, for 17 years all together, correct. And they are a seasoned group right now. They held it together. Remember, CCC is an amalgamation. There's several people. It's a coalition also of other parties. So they've held themselves together for all this period of time. So they went through the test of time. If you think there weren't issues within the CDC, you're wrong. There already have issues. In fact, just today or yesterday, Sarah Allen of the NPP said there's some issues we're dealing with internally, and not everybody is satisfied. Okay, so yes, there are going to be internal issues in a coalition. It always depends on your ability to handle them. That will forge. That will come out if you handle them properly. You'll come out a strong force. And this again was the failure of the CPP. Those who are in charge allow it to disintegrate. They lost the power that was within that. Going forward, the UP. Because the UP is so entrenched in the standard bearership of our honorable Joseph Boakai. I don't see anyone else they will allow to be head of the party. I've heard some of the party members say, why didn't we go through a proper primary and select a senator bearer? But the whole process in UP has been in concession to give this thing to Boakai. And I don't see it changing. I don't see it changing whatsoever. What I do see, maybe, possibly, they will reach out to a candidate, maybe Tawan, Congo, or somebody like that to join forces with. They've already started to try to join forces with them. But again, just like Pat was saying, UP sees themselves as the dominant. They're not coming into the coalition as equals. They're only looking for people to cheer, to buff them up, and not to be on equal par. So to me, I don't see any chance at all of the opposition having a very formidable force. Not at this juncture. It will require some serious reconciliation. It will require some serious momentum gained by some of the aspirants like Cummings and Gongo. And it also will require the CDC doing things that will negatively affect them in the coming elections. And that is what they're being very careful with at this time. They are very strategic right now, making sure they're not leaving no stone unturned, as in Lofa, to gain the support they need coming to 2023. So we're going to see a lot of development and things going on all around the country right now because CDC is gun-ho to win.
Thank you, and we want to welcome Hanson King and Larry Kennedy. Mr. Patmore, here we are when we talk about elections, when we talk about politics, we talk about resources. One of the issues emanating out of Lofa County was the lack of resources on the part of Unity Party to even pay their poor workers. So how do you go into a nationwide campaign that will require millions, and you cannot develop a strategy to raise more than $20,000? How does this work when you need massive funds of money that goes from, we are talking about 15 counties, massive 15 counties? How does the opposition, okay, now that they are saying they don't want Cummings into their ranking, we have trust issue, we have disrespect issue. How does a broke opposition contend with an an incumbent. We are talking about heavyweight fight here. You can't just go and say, I'm going to draw with the champion. You gotta not, you can't beat them. You gotta knock the heavyweight champion out. How does the opposition outside of Cummings raise the resources to actually beat the CDC?
Well, so again, man, that is a mystery to me. That is a mystery to me. I mean, think about it for a second. The first thing that puzzled me and a lot of people was, why go back into Lofa? Why go back into the election cycle when all you really had to do was just raise the money for Samuka and pay it? And Samuka would have taken his seat. And everything would have been done. They couldn't raise that money. That was the first question mark. And then they decided, no, we'll go back. And now we see poll watchers not getting paid. You know, my brother Edwin Snow said something the other day. I can't remember which program he was on. No, but he said when I ran in Pommy, I paid I had to provide $30 US for each poll worker. And now we're hearing that United Party, the largest party, they could not even provide for poor workers. And I'm hearing people saying like they offer to pay poor workers $5, and they couldn't even manage the $5. Somebody needs to be held responsible, but I promise you, nobody will be held responsible, and that is the crux of the matter. Now, how do you take that? How do you take that and multiply by 15? And you couldn't do it once.
Mm-hmm.
How do you multiply that by 15?
Mr. Eastman, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, maybe let me piggyback on that, Mr. Padmore.
Sure.
It's even more acute than that. I understand there were thousands of dollars appropriated for poll workers in the amount of $10,000. And that money for the poll watchers was first skimmed off the top by the standard bearer, okay, or the people running in the elections, and then the balance of the money never reached some of those poll watchers. That is crucially irresponsible. Do you not know how important poll watchers are? That is laughable. If this is true, if the money you're using to make sure that the election goes according to where you want it to go, that you have people watching you for your votes, and you don't even you take the money and pocket it, or you take the money and squander it, and I'm even hearing that the UP party did not even have the tally like other parties did, because they didn't have anybody to represent them. They had to call around to Spoon TV and other people to get the tally. It shows a level of irresponsibility, and this is who wants to go to national leadership. I keep saying that all these things are happening under the supervision of some. And if it's happening in any other circumstance, if these things are happening under you, then you are not a good manager. And usually we replace you when you have faltered repeatedly. You need to be replaced. That's all I said.
Mr. Eastman, I heard you use the word squandered. That word is very toxic in the Unity Party, because the Honorable Joseph Walker admitted that he has a record of squandering. Even though he blamed it on Ellen Johnson, but he said we squandered the opportunity, the wealth, the money, the goodwill of the international community in the billions. And here we are, we're going from billion to 10,000. And the stand-up bearer for which they are fighting, Mr. Kotima himself, took $1,500 and put it in his pocket and said, this one are for me. Then the $9,000, I think Mo Ali or whoever it was that was in charge of the party, they gave him the money. He disappeared. Nobody got paid. Then he showed up the following day, according to our reliable sources, that he came with about 6 to 10 tally sheets to Omen Boakai and presented it. And when they look at the tally sheet, all the tally sheet he brought CDC or Jala won on all 10 or 6 tally sheets. All the tally sheets were won by Jala. And the old man said, you're taking me back to Lofa. You're taking me back. They went through Sierra Leone. So when you talk about mismanagement, squandering, you are talking about people who have never managed, but want to come to political prominence because of they being in line, say, it's my turn. They don't want to earn it. They don't want to work for it. This is a society that we are talking about. And these people, before we go to our last subject here, our next subject, which is the food security in Liberia. Talk to me about the future of the opposition outside of Mr. Cummings. We are hearing today, I heard from Elare Tokma, who says they are forming a new organization to get rid of the CP called DAL, Democratic Alliance of Liberia, and he's part of it. Are you seeing here that they are trying all they can to sideline Mr. Cummings here by going around and saying, we don't need a CPP anymore. We'll form another alliance called DAL, Democratic Alliance of Liberia, and we will exclude Cummings, and then we are going to go and crown Joseph Boakai. Will coalesce around him. I'm hearing this. What does this say about the opposition to come 2023? It's a Padmore.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much. The first thing is, when you create an organization, and the acronym for the organization is DAG, you already killing yourself. You're already killing yourself. I mean, think about it though. You know, people want leadership, but then they don't have the ability to lead. Okay? So now what do you say about Lofa? Another squander opportunity? Really? And then how do you expect the Liberian people to look at you? At this point, it doesn't even matter. It does not matter how many small little parties that you are able to gravitate towards you. You know, when you live in a neighborhood and you are seen as the giant of that neighborhood, and all the other small people under you pay homage to you. When you go fight and they beat you, when you come back, all the small boys are beating you too. They will start challenging you. So this notion that before they went to Lofa, there were a bunch of smaller parties that were willing to join them with the assertion that the time you come in, just know that Joseph Boakai is the candidate, will not be like that anymore. The narrative will change. It has to change. It has to change. Omen Boakai needs to sit back for a second, swallow that arrogance and that pride, and find strength where it lies when it comes to him, you know, and use that in the opposition community. Because it won't work anymore. It won't work anymore. If you don't have Liberty Party, if you don't have the ANC, in any kind of coalition that you put together, that coalition is dead on arrival. It's dead on arrival.
Wow. Let's welcome Joe Moyu, our brother from Nevada here. Mr. Eastman, before we go to the next one, we are talking about within the opposition here, there was a ruling from the Supreme Court last week, that gives Mr. Musa Ability the authority and the legitimacy of the leader of the Liberty Party, handing down or defeat to Nyobli Kanga Lawrence and her group that wanted to prohibit Musa Ability from doing anything administrative because they felt that he was illegitimate, that he wanted to return to the 2015 Constitution ante, and the Supreme Court ruled that that was not possible. There were no legal standing in her petition, and that Musa Bility is the legitimate leader of the Liberty Party. What rancor does that put again into this whole coalition?
That's an internal struggle in the Liberty Party. It's I think for Liberty to field candidates or to be as strong, the Liberty Party to be as strong as they are, they have to mend their fences. They have to come together and let everybody put their cards on the table and come to a compromise. Because the Liberty Party been part of the fabric of the Liberian politics for a while now, and we don't want to lose them. Losing half of their group, Kangai and Dylan, I think it would change the facade of the Liberty Party. So they're going to have to do some soul searching, and they're going to have to determine whether they want the party to be to survive, or they want to just simply go another way. Well, what I notice a lot is that a lot of people like to cross carpet, and I don't see any ideological reason they cross carpet. They just simply do it for being able to take advantage, the leverage of the being in power. So on this gone week, we saw that Jala had donned the CDC hat. He's no longer an independent candidate. What we will see with the Lofa people, obviously some people may go to other parties and become a different entity altogether. So if they don't put it together in their best interest, they will disintegrate the party. I'm not sure if Charlene, the forefather, Brumskin's daughter, can bring them together, but they have to find what their objective is. If the main objective is I want to be in charge, or is the main objective is we want Liberty Party to be a strong factor in the Liberian politics. Now, if you take the latter, then you can mend your fences. But if you only want power, then you will not be able to come to a compromise, because all you're interested is in power, and that's not some of that is not where you want to start to negotiate. If you have to negotiate, I don't think the opposition has anything. And when you were mentioning about Alaric and Dow, I know the comrades. We were all in school together. He and Bongo were all in school together, and those I know the views those guys espouse, the philosophies and the theories we studied long years back. I don't see that existing in the UP party right now. I don't see it being encompassed. I don't see that those things that we were taught and we held dear to us. I don't see that happening in the UP party. So it'll be kind of strange for me. I see them quicker going with a grassroots movement than something like that. But I could be wrong. So that's my take on it. Mm-hmm.
Let me, if I can just chime in for a second.
Real quick, let me welcome Jipley here. Thank you for coming. Now, Mr. Padmo, before we go to the next one here, there's a pattern here of something that we call terrible leadership, of being ungrateful. When the UP lost the election to CDC, Honorable Boykai was so dishonest, ungrateful, by allowing his surrogates to abuse and attempt to disgrace the former president in Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The president, the lady that chose him over 4.some million other folks to make him her vice president. Even when you disagree with somebody in politics, You do all you can to be as diplomatic as you can. But they didn't even throw just jive. They were dishonest, they were abusive, they were disrespectful. In fact, I think it was Mr. Snow attributed some of this. He, as a personal individual, experienced it from Joseph Boyka when he was leaving the CPP or the Unity Party. He said Joseph Boyka wrote him in a chat room. Instead of going and say, "Why are you leaving? Let's come back." He said, "One monkey wouldn't spoil the show. Let him go." This is a human being, a man who wants to lead a country. Your former boss, whether you agree or disagree with her, as an educated person, as a leader, or anybody who have gone behind closed doors, to ask her for her support instead, his honor henchmen were using all kinds of languages. Now, when you juxtapose that to the attitude he had against Mr. Cummings, after Cummings has spent his money, have worked for the party, they have won all of the races around the country. This is exactly the man you have, Mr. Pablo. You wanted to come in.
Yes. So first, just a little bit on Liberty Party, and then I'll address your question there. You know, what is happening in Liberty Party is unfortunately an expected event. You know, when a family loses its father, the children, they always fight for the property. That's why, you know, you are always advised, have a will. So that when you pass on, everything is divided. So that your children don't fight. You know, there is order. Unfortunately, Brumskin did not do that. You know, Brumskin, you know, when Brumskin sadly left us, you know, he felt confident enough in his children that they would exercise some sort of maturity, and we've seen that they're fighting with a bad property right now. But I'm glad that Liberty Party, whether the Musa Ability faction or the Yombly faction, they can clearly see the writing on the wall that neither side can exist without the other. And there's nothing more reconciliatory than understanding that you need the next person to survive, to thrive. You know, and when you have that, and that is expressed clearly, you humble yourself a lot easier. Now to your other point, you know, that you made concerning the Unity Party, concerning Joseph Boyka. You know, Joseph Boyka is an elderly statesman. He has seen a lot. He's been through a lot. So we always tend to give him the benefit of the doubt. However, there are times in there where things that have happened have been very questionable. For example, you know, Charles Walker Brumsky knew Ambassador Boyka very well. And in 2017, he chose not to endorse him. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf chose Ambassador Boyka as her vice president for 12 years. And after 12 years, she chose not to endorse him. And you have to ask yourself the question, what is going on? These people who have known this man for decades, what do they know that is withholding this magnitude of trust? You know, and sometimes we see little flashes of it, like when my brother Snow said, you know, the way how Mr. Ambassador Boyka responded to him, that was very disappointing. You know, and so you have to ask yourself the question: do we really know this man? Do we really know enough about him? You know, to hold him where we hold him, or for him to be the leader of a party? You know, it's a question that we will continue to have. It's a conversation that we should have, because we want to be able to make an informed decision come 2023. And these are conversations that we must have so that we can know exactly who is Joseph Boyka, you know, underneath this calm, humble, elderly, you know, statesman that doesn't talk plenty, so that we know exactly what we are doing. moving forward into 2023. I believe it is expressly important that we continue to have conversations like these concerning this.
We have spent a lot of time on this. Let's look at the number two things here. We'll come back to the politics. Last week, the White House, the Biden administration, selected Liberia out of, I think, 60 countries that were supposed to be selected as, I guess when we talk about food security or food insecurity, Liberia was selected to be a beneficiary of that program. Mr. Eastman here, going a few years back, we were saying America had dropped Liberia. Liberia were no longer significant. We were insignificant. And then should we say now that we are seeing geopolitics, what's going on around the world? Is Liberia or Africa is now coming back into play after the Cold War, when the Omega Tower was torn down and Liberia, according to the American folks, the CIA, our importance to the American polity was not as great as it was in the Cold War. Now we are seeing the emergence of something similar. Liberia is now beginning to benefit. We are becoming the benefactor, beneficiary of whatever it is going on. This is a major deal here. That Liberia is being selected as one of the cornerstones for food security in Africa. Mr. Padmore, jump in here.
Oh, absolutely. So there are a couple of things here that that we need to gather. The first thing is that yes, we assumed that Liberia had been written off, and that has not been, So I think we're coming back to agree that no, that Liberia has not been written off. There were times when Liberia faltered. Liberia disappointed the international community, but they have sent us a message over and over that once we're willing to straighten out our integrity institutions, we're able to work hard, we're able to fight corruption, that they're willing to help. And I think this is another opportunity. I'm hopeful that this government or the pending government for next year will be able to take advantage of this. I read through what the U.S. government is trying to do, and is really looking for public-private relationships. And I'm hoping that this government can empower the private sector to take advantage of this opportunity, and Liberia can move towards that food security.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about the audio. Let me come in. I think first we need to establish why does Liberia have food insecurity. Let's establish that first. We have what we call is our economy. When prices of products and foods are increasing, and household income, the money people make, is decreasing, it's going to become very difficult for people to sustain their basic needs. We in America, we are seeing galloping prices, inflationary prices all the day. To me, on average, at least for food, is 150%. What I used to buy for $10 a meal, now I buy $15 a meal. And here is it. Liberia is already on when it comes to income, a low-level income. So now, if prices keep going up and no opportunities, we're about to see a critical problem erupt. Now, I would think when Biden selected Liberia, he's looking at data. Because today, all the decisions we make are based in data. So I would believe the World Food Program has identified certain data in Liberia, daily income and the general cost of food on the market as becoming somewhere critical. And that is, however, let's face it, we may look at that favorably, but like my friend Sam Waller will say, that's not no list we want to be on. We need to be building our own agricultural sector to be able to feed ourselves. If you cannot even feed yourself, are you independent? What is your independence worth if you can't? Just think about your home. Your children can't eat every day unless you borrow some money from somebody. But you say you're independent. You say you're a man. So we have to take an inner reflection. Even if this aid comes, it's coming through beefing up the private sector. If you listen to the language there, they're looking for partnership with people to build up the private sector. I guess the agriculture minister will have to be involved. But what they're trying to do here, what should be the national message now? They want to help us grow food. So anybody and everybody who wants to do farm, let's come into an organization. Let's get ourselves organized so we can produce more. The other way to remedy this is to start other industries in the country. That way we can earn foreign currency. If we are exporting, not raw materials. I'm not talking about exporting your jewels and your diamonds and your ore. I'm talking about producing things in the factory that you engage labor that you can sell. The only other way to offset something like this is to become more industrial. And when we talk about the building roads, we need to target roads where the industry will directly benefit. I mean, we need something quick. We don't need down the road. We need something right away. So those big area like Tapeta, those areas where there's a lot of industry and stuff like that, you want to definitely have roads there and electricity there. That's how the data, it speaks. You go to the places that will have the biggest effect, and then that's where you beef up. But that is not a list we want to be on. We may look at this as an opportunity now to build up our agricultural industry, but it means something bad may be in our future.
Okay, Mr. Eastman, I would disagree with you, and I'm listening to what Mr. Wallow or Dr. Wallow is saying here, and I have to disagree. I think this week, when we talk about the private sector, I think this week, even though we didn't want to say this, Mr. Patmore, a few other folks, and myself, we have decided that, listen, we want to put our meager resources together, go on the ground, and invest in our own country, no matter what. These are the conversations that are being held around by young folks and people who have vested interest in their country. So when we are talking about investing in Liberia, to be very frank with you, when I took an investor from here with lots of money, my intention was that we go to Grand Bassa County and we would take over the old flour mill. You remember the Liberian flour milling company that was there? We took the guy from Iowa with a lot of money. We went and they did all the survey. When they look over the books, they look at the population, look at the market. They came back and said, Mr. Gaiman, we cannot invest in Liberia. Liberia does not have the market. That means we have to manufacture in Liberia and then market to the ECOWAS country. He said that was not our intention. Our intention was going to Liberia and invest in Liberia and make some money. We are not willing and ready to ship to Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, order that was not our intention. So when we are talking about market, those of us who are into the grind, I think Mr. Padmo is going to do this. You're going to say this. Whatever you do in Liberia, to be very fair, if you want to be profitable, we just do not have the population. We just do not have the market. So anything that you do has to be based on production, but export. So when I see what Biden is doing, they are not looking at Liberia as a market. They are looking at Liberia basically as the base to export to the rest of the world, like the Ukraine has done. where they produce massive amount of grain, and they don't basically consume it, a fraction of it, but it goes to the outside world. So this is where we are. Someone like Mr. Patmore, by trying to invest into cocoa or coffee or rubber, now what the next step will be, now that we're growing the coffee or the cocoa, maybe we manufacture now and then export to Hershey or other these in bulk, where they can now maybe add value to it by repackaging and selling. So what you are looking at is a big deal. If they were to put 500 million or $1 billion in Liberia to manufacture, because we have the land, we have the soil, it's the management. So it's a big deal. Let nobody fool you, or nobody says anything that we should have been food insecure. We got hungry people in the United States here. So we shouldn't say that this is a big deal. We have to collectively put our hands around and make sure that it works for us. Go ahead, Mr. Patmore.
Well, okay, so concerning this list, right? So I'm one of those. I believe there are 3 lists. Okay? There's one list of countries that are food secure. There's another list of countries that are food insecure that the US government is willing to work with to help beef up their security. And there's a third list of countries that are just completely helpless. And the US government is not even going to waste their time. I thank God we are not on the third list that are just completely helpless. I wish we were on that first list of countries that are secure and they don't need help. Unfortunately, we are not. We could sit here today and talk about all the reasons why we're not, but I think we're all aware. So the question is, for me, is now that we find ourselves on this list, how do we take advantage of this opportunity to get ourselves on the list of countries where we are food secure and we're really not looking for help from other people? That's where I come from with that. Even though this list might seem a little demeaning to some people, it is a list of opportunity. That's how I see it. Opportunity not so much for handout, but opportunity for collaboration, for partnership. That private-public partnership to get Liberians to become more of entrepreneurs, to take the future of feeding themselves into their own hands. The U.S. government does not grow one item in the U.S. The food that is grown in the U.S. is grown by private people, private farms. You don't see government farms. There are no government farms in the U.S. They are all private people. You can go from Minnesota down to Iowa. You can go westward to Montana and Idaho, and these people are feeding the nation. Private people. They are boosted by the public, yes, and the government, but they are private farmers. And I'm hoping that this is what this is for Liberia, an opportunity for more Liberians to get their hands into farming, into production of food, into processing of food. And you are absolutely right. Look, we are Rwanda is so much smaller than us, and they have such a high population. We are a small population country. Liberia of 5 million people is very small. Very small, But, yes, so we won't always have the market to absorb everything, and we will look to exporting. That's okay. I believe exporting, we've made export this demon in the room. No, the reason why exporting in Liberia is bad is because even though we export, we import more than we export. And so when you tip that balance, then it becomes bad. But if we are exporting to the rest of the world, I think that's okay. As long as we are producing enough to feed ourselves and exporting the rest, that is okay. It's bad when we're exporting a bunch of things and then we're countering that by importing even more things. Basic things that we can do for ourselves. But that's where I stand on that. This is a time for opportunity, wherever we find ourselves, and we should definitely take advantage of it. Definitely.
While I agree with your assertion that there can be an opportunity. Almost everything can be an opportunity, even in the dire circumstances, is an opportunity. But before you start to export, your product has to be of a certain grade level. If it's not, the people who export usually they export higher grade products, at least a certain standard products. If it's inferior, now for instance, our cocoa, the species of cocoa in Liberia is it's a unique species, and it will sell for more than any other type of cocoa. But the thing is, we don't put enough fertilizer nor nurture the ground enough to grow the cocoa to a standard it should be. So our cocoa is watery. They don't even it's not exported for consumption. Where Africa's cocoa is exported for consumption. So there's a lot of things you have to do. What this U.S. program is called? It's called the Feed the Future. It's a U.S. flagship food security program, and it's about to expand into 8 new countries. What are the countries? The countries are, because of the war in Ukraine, they're going to expand into Congo, Liberia, Madagascar, Malawi, Mozambique, Rwanda, that's doing way better than us, Tanzania, and Zambia. Okay, the expansion, they're looking at putting $5 billion in into this program for development. So yeah, we can't we can hardly feed ourselves, but we need to do things properly. First of all, putting in the right nutrients, doing things, and our farming, it's too small, it's too subsistent, it's too at a small scale to really be profitable. There have to be plans on the books that we're going to consolidate these farms to take advantage of economies of scale, or machinery, whatnot. One poor man in Bang or in Bassa or somewhere from, they can't afford caterpillars and all that sort of thing. But if they group together, one caterpillar could do all the farms there. So we need a lot of cooperation if this is going to be a success. And Mike, and this is what I've been looking at. We're not collaborating with our programs. Need a lot of cooperation. During Torba time, some of the big guys. They had their farms. They were doing some things. But now, for this to affect the average Liberian, we will need cooperatives.
But Mr. Eastman, this is why this is not like the United States of old, where they just bring a bunch of money and put it in the bank and say, go ahead and use it. It doesn't work that way anymore. This is why they are coming with high tech. They are coming with the knowledge. They are coming with Liberians like Padmo, like you and myself, who have a vested interest in, if you're doing agriculture, we now know how it should be done. We have visited Iowa, like you said, Montana. We have visited all of these places, and we know how they cultivate. Not only how they cultivate, but how the food are processed. For instance, in Florida, if you need watermelon, you need strawberry, you need all of those things. The private farmers, they get their loan, they get whatever help they get, they grow in mass. And then the FDA purchases from them. And then they take that food and they give it to the infant and family food, the school fee program. This is how the farmers make their money. Same concept is going to be transferred, and the technology transferred to Liberia. You want your feeding program, mothers and children, and all of those are how farmers make their money. So if the government of Liberia were a purchaser through this program, that if you make your farm, just like we used to have the LPMC, you bring your produce to LPMC, we weigh it, we buy it for you, and we warehouse it, and then we take it, repackage it, and give it to the schools and all of that, and then export. This is where they are going. So I think it's a great thing. Mr. Padmore, we are running out of time here. Let's go to the third one here. And this is something that I know my brother Kev Hassan and other folks, they get upset with me because when we criticize our own government, not criticize, but when we ask these critical questions, it has nothing to do with we don't want our government or we don't like our government. But as much as we love our government, we also we should hold our government feet to the fire, and we should ask these critical questions. Mr. Padmo, we are hearing, and I don't have the facts. We are reading in the paper that 1.5 million gallons of diesel fuel disappear at LPRC. You don't have to be an opposition as long as you are a Liberian or patriotic Liberian. We should ask these hard questions. If it is true, what is going on here? Who is responsible? And how do we get to the bottom of this? Go ahead, Mr. Padmore.
Thank you very much. The first thing we have to understand is that gas evaporates. Diesel does not evaporate. Okay. You can put a pan of diesel even under the hot sun. You come out, you're sitting there, right there looking at you. You know, all that gas. How much is diesel fuel going for? Almost $5 a gallon.
More than $5 a gallon.
And you lose over 1 million gallons. This is where my disappointment really deeply sits when it comes with the president of Liberia. Because this is where I expect him to rise above partisanship, rise above personal relationships, and put Liberia first. Get together an independent group right now and say, I need for you to go into LPRC and find out what happened. And anybody who does not cooperate with you, send me the name, I will dismiss them tomorrow. Go in, find out what happened, bring those people to justice, and let's not so much for because you want to certify Michael Padmore, not because you want to certify Alexander Cummings, but because it is deadly to Liberia. How do private importers feel secure to bring their products into the country and it's going to go missing? And you are responsible for storing it and securing it. Maybe this is the end of LPRC. You know, when LPRC was first created, it was not created to store fuel. LPRC is not a storage facility. LPRC was a refining corporation. You know, the product was brought in whole, and then LPRC was responsible to refine, take the gas part or take the kerosene off. They don't do that no more. Now all they do is they store. Maybe it should be a private industry. Maybe the private sector needs to take over storing fuel. Because if this had been a private company that had lost 1.5 million, they will be in court. We're going to take them to court, and the court was going to demand justice. We're not going to take government to court. So we're going to talk about this for the next maybe 5 to 7 days, and then we'll leave it alone. And nobody will ever know what happened to the 1.5 million. This is things that are dragging the country down. Now, investors are looking. They are searching. Right now, you and I know, Mr. Geme, you know, we've talked about different prospects in Liberia. Now, how do we go to people with the finance and say, we want you to come to Liberia with us, you know, and let's start a minor plantation in Liberia. And they are looking and they are seeing that, wait, is this the country where 1.5 million of diesel fuel can just go missing and nothing happens? How do I put my money into something like this? You know, and this is the problem. It is a serious problem. It is a bigger problem than just a diesel. It is a message it sends. And then people wonder why we are struggling to bring investors into the country. You know, and it's sad. And I mean, I'm hopeful that people who have the ear of the president can convince him this one time to do the right thing. Do the right thing.
Mr. Eastman. Mr. Eastman, we are talking about 1.5, and I want to be clear here. There's a disclaimer. This is what we are reading. Mr. Padmo doesn't have the facts. I don't have the facts. Nobody has it. This is what we are reading in the paper, and these are credible papers. So what we are saying here is we want to be clear. We are not castigating. We are not accusing. We are saying here what we are reading, and we are blowing this alarm because this is not the first time that these things have happened. And it happens, and then later on something happens, and like if something else happens, and then we drop this and move on. We are talking about 1.5 million gallons of diesel. I'm in Florida. Diesel is almost $6 US in the United States, right here in Florida. It might cost even more in other states or in Liberia. But in Florida, it's almost $6 per gallon. Multiply that by $1.5 million. Mr. Eastman, this is no joke. Those of us who are citizens that support the government, we are sending out, I know this word may be overused in Liberia, a caveat, but this is alarming. Our administration needs to get to the bottom. Even if it was a false news, let us allay our fear that this was false and this is not true. But as it stands, this is big news to me, Mr. Eastman.
Yeah, I mean, to first understand the situation, we need to dig a little deeper. There's a practice with the LPRC, and only one thing Mr. Padmo said, that he said maybe we need to privatize some of these things. When people start talking about privatization, they talk about because the efficiency of the organization or the entity is not where it needs to be. And this is why people support privatization, because we want something efficient. When businesses are run because they have to get a profit, they have to get their money back, at least break even, they will run it very efficiently. But when you have government-sponsored entities running things where their expectations are softer, that they're not, performance is not based on your returns, we see these inefficiencies. So the LPRC they've been having this tendency. There is a lack of capacity there. They can't hold everything. So what they do typically, when one company brings in their fuel or their gasoline, they store it. And while other people are shipping theirs, they will lend out certain quantity to these other companies. Right now in question, part of this 1.5 million, it's owned by Petrotrade. They were informed that Aminata has 400,000 of this product, and Nexium has another 300,000. So it didn't just evaporate in thin air. These were given to these companies probably because their shipment is expected. That's been the practice there. I don't know. It would be good we could marry Yuri Coleman down here and understand why this practice going on. But I typically believe because there's a capacity limitation at there. They can only do a certain amount. Even in our ports, that only a certain amount of ships can dock at a time. So how are you going to offload these tankers? You don't have the capacity again. So you have to find a way with your limited capacity to bring in the fuel, the various products, and have a best way to have it available. So what they're in the practice of doing, while we're waiting, one person waiting on theirs, if they can prove it, they have to send a beta laden or something like that, proving that they have this shipload coming in. And once you do, then the LPRC will give you the fuel oil in expectation of the one you bring in. But the problem why Petrotrade is blowing alarm, because it's not there and it's not available. Even the balance 700,000, or you got 700,000 and from 1.5, that's 800,000 left. They're not getting any positive information on what's the rest, and then they are slowed down. So in business, if you can't turn a quick dime, you have to turn over. You have to keep turning over. So if somebody got you waiting for days and weeks for your product, you're losing money. You still have to operate. You're still paying light bill. You're still paying salaries. You're still paying all the different other expenses, but you're not selling. You're not getting any revenue. So right away, you're going backwards. So if they are underperforming, they are not selling as fast as they should. The people who credited them, who credited the petrol trade, they said, well, look, we send you 1 million, 1.5 million, and you're taking 1 year to pay back. We could have sent this to Sierra Leone, and they would have paid us back in 2 months or 3 months. So that is giving, so you're eroding their credibility. That's why they're really making alarm, because they don't have the product that they need to sell, and they're telling them that somebody else has the product. So this is it's not just a pure theft case. There's some management issues. Why these things go on? How can we better handle it? And this is why Mr. Padmo's suggestion of maybe a private entity doing this may be better, because we might see more efficiency. But they will have to probably build some tankers and maybe expand the port, whatever they will do. But these are it's complicated. So I wouldn't, this is not something against the president or his administration. No, I don't think we should pull him in all of this. A lot of these things are administrative issues, given the limitations of the facilities that are there, given the past practices. They have to come to a way to resolve it, and it's not so easy, especially when you have capacity issues.
Well, I understand this. I'm saying this because as a sedition supporter of the president, I think maybe a year ago, we saw that a gasoline issue. There were lack of gasoline issue in the country. When they talked to the director of the LPRC, she said, our dipstick didn't work. We didn't go to actually measure the amount of the gas that was left in each reserve tank, and we have this, and the president had to physically get involved. So what is the leader of this organization called LPRC, what is it that she's doing that she cannot foresee, issues? When we talk about storage, I think when Harold Greaves was there, they were talking about building more storage in Bassa, where they will expand the storage and all of the facilities. We're talking about people who were seeing 10, 15, 20 years ahead. This new director has been there, and it keeps coming back to the president all the time, because listen, man, the buck stops with the chief of staff. I mean, the chief, the CEO here, and the president. There's one particular entity as important as LPRC is to the economy, to the entire survival of the country. And we keep having these things, and then we are saying it's complicated. Of course it's complicated. That's why we put somebody who we thought could do the job to make sure that they make it less complicated. But it keeps coming back and backfiring. Before we go to our comment section, Mr. Padmo, you can bring us home on this issue, so we go to the comments.
There's certain commodities in the market that are national security commodities. Fuel is a national security commodity.
Just like rice, yes.
Yes, just like rice. And yeah, it might not be up to the presidential level, but when you start having such mass shortages, for whatever reason, whether it is bureaucratic, administrative, whether it is stealing, obviously there's something there not working properly. And when that reflects on a national security issue, it should sit on the president's desk. And the president needs to find out exactly what is going on, and then turn to his director of LPRC and say, "Can you handle this? Are you over your head? Do I need to replace you?" If that was a private industry, that's what the board will be asking that person. The CEO that's running that company, the board will convene a meeting and say, "Are you over your head? Do we need to replace you?" Because think about it. If you had 2-3 companies in Liberia that were storing products, and one of them were in the news all the time about product going missing, guess what will happen to that company? They will lose business. Nobody carrying their product to them. And that is the beauty of capitalism. If you want customers, you have to provide superior service. And so it falls on the president's desk. He needs to do something. He absolutely, and if I'm sorry, but if the director of LPRC is over the head, then they need to be replaced. They need to be replaced with somebody who can efficiently do this. We know Liberia. All us here know Liberia. People will come to you. They'll say, "Yeah, my ship coming. It will be here in 3 weeks." They say, "Man, what a bill of lading, or what is the shipping document?" And instead of handing the shipping document, you just slide in a brown envelope. And that man going to put roof on his house. And those are the things that need to stop. And the only way those things will stop is unless there's intervention from the very top to say what is happening here and to take action.
Thank you very much. Hopefully our engineers can put forth some of the comments so we can respond and go to our closing. Do we have any comments or any calls? Okay, I think Mr. Eastman and Mr. Patton, I think we all looking at the different, the comments here. I think Mr. Patton may be driving, so it's not good. But Mr. Eastman, can you read? Mr.
Yes.
Patton, are you in a position to read some of the comments?
Well, let me start while he looks at that.
Okay.
Henry G. Dower. He said the election of Councillor Jala in Lofa was a Bandi solidarity. This doesn't mean we have left JNB. We told Councillor Jala that we will vote for him, but we will not. He will not influence our choice when it comes to the choice of presidency. So I think he made that comment when I said that Jala put on the CDC beret soon after he won. So he's trying to say that they will vote for him, but when it comes to 2023, he will have no influence over that vote.
Well, Mr. Dodo, let me educate you. I don't want to sound professorial here, but in politics, there's something called optics that develops what we call momentum. Okay, what other people have seen in Lofa may tell them in Bong and say, listen, that man, he's not careful. That man, can't sell him. We are not going to accommodate him here. So it's not only about Lofa. It's about the optics. And you are hearing from everybody now that the conversation and the point that Bwaka usually makes that, listen, I am the top dog. I got my 600,000 vote in the lockbox. When I read out, release them, no longer holds. So you can say all you want to say. Most likely, I want to tell you that you are not in Liberia. You never even voted for Jala. So I can tell that is not true. But in politics, momentum is everything. Mr. Patmo, speak to that.
Absolutely. That just sounds like an excuse. That just sounds like an excuse, and it's sad because that tells me that the members of the Unity Party are not willing to look themselves in the mirror and see that things are changed. There's a new day. And if you're not willing to be honest with yourself and take the appropriate actions, if you notice, CDC was honest with themselves and they took certain actions, and that is why they were successful in Lofa. If the opposition community are not willing to be honest with themselves and take the necessary action, they will lose again in 2023, and they will lose badly, even worse than Lofa.
Let's go to the next comment.
The other comment is by Jiple Cabral Chebo. It was all about Ellen Sirleaf protection. It is from that point you understand why she left UP that wasn't willing to protect her criminal activities, and she has that protection today. So this is in relation to why she did not back Joseph Boakai in his bid for presidency. She wanted someone to protect her. That's what Mr. Chebo is saying here.
Well, Mr. Jipro, to be honest with you, politics is interest, okay? even if CDC, what we are saying here, we don't have an approved. We are an opinion piece here. Even if it were true that CDC promised Ellen Johnson Sirleaf protection, which I believe to be totally false, you will still have to use the court system in Liberia to prosecute anybody. Nobody has the power to just go and grab somebody and say, I'm going to put you in jail because I suspect you were poor when you came into government. Now you're driving big cars, so I'm going to put you in jail. That's not how it works, Mr. Jipro. Whether you promise to protect the president or not, anybody, including the Unity Party, including Joseph Boakai, if they find proof, empirical proof, that this woman killed somebody or did something, they can still prosecute us. So we have to use the court of law. Ain't nobody can go to any house and grab anybody and say, I'm going to put you in jail or hang you because we suspect you did this. It has to be empirical. It has to be legal. This is why we are a nation of laws, Mr. Padmo.
Look, the thing here is, the first thing is that 2011, when Ellen and Joe ran, they promised the Liberian people. They said that this would be their last go around, and that they will be looking forward to a generational change. Okay, so that was the first promise that they made to the Liberian people. The second thing is that we saw Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's son go to jail, even though it was temporary. But he went to court. He was put in orange jumpsuit, and of course they won the case, but there was prosecution. Who would protect Ellen more? Her corrupt UP people who will be protecting her and them, or George Weah? Look, that all those things were just excuses that people made along the way, to somehow justify, oh, Ellen did this because of this. If Ellen had chosen Joseph Boakai was going to prosecute. We all know that's not true. Joseph Boakai was not going to prosecute anybody. The United Party was not going to prosecute itself. Because you cannot prosecute Ellen while prosecuting the entire bunch. United Party was not going to prosecute itself. We all know that to be true. So that's just, it sounds good when people say.
So why Ellen didn't support him then? Why Ellen didn't support his bill?
Because the reason why Ellen didn't support the bill, one is because in 2011, Ellen and Joseph Boakai, when they ran for that second term, they said that this was going to be their last go around and that they were going to move to generational change. And Ellen tried to encourage Joe. Let's leave this for the young people. Joe decided, no, you're not going to do that. He must insert himself. And she said, if you're going to do that, you'll do that on your own. That's all it is.
Mr. Padmo, while you at it, we ran out of time. Close real quick so we can move on. Almost 6 o'clock.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. It's always delightful to be on here. I'm sorry I'm not in my usual studio, but I could not miss this program. It was too important. It was too important to communicate to the Liberian people. On the basis of Lofa, I'm hopeful. I'm still hopeful that cooler heads will prevail, that maturer heads will prevail, away from Facebook, away from the minions and the lower people in the party going back and forth on each other. I'm hoping that the leaders of the opposition will find humility and find common sense to come together and form some form of bond that can defeat the CDC ruling party. When it comes to the LPRC issue, I'm hoping, and there's a lot of hope, but that's sometimes that all you're left with. I'm hoping that the president can step forward and solve this issue. And if he cannot solve it, move to turn LPRC into a private organization. There are a lot of investors. People do not like to compete with government. So once you see government in a sector, investors will withhold themselves. If government tells you right now, within the next 6 months, we are going to withdraw from the oil sector, we're no longer going to store products, you will see investments, you will see Liberians getting together. I know Musa Belete has a storage farm in Maryland County to basically provide a few products to the whole Southeast. You will see that rise more and more. As for the food security issue, I'm excited. I've been researching the issue because I'm one of those Liberians too that are looking forward to taking advantage of that. I'm hoping other Liberians too are doing the same. Yes, it's not a celebratory thing for us to be on that list, but this is an opportunity for us to use this to get off that list and get off that list permanently. Once again, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to another good Sunday next week.
Thank you. Mr. Eastman, real quick, 1 minute.
Yeah, it's hard to be a president and a leader because you have to choose people who will do the job. The president can do all the job, and you have to choose who will actually do the job. But not only that, the people who got you there, the people who got you where support you and where you are, you also have to keep them happy. You have to keep them happy. You have to keep the people who lend you the money, their donors, and there's several different avenues and strings pulling at you. And these challenges are mind-boggling. But what we need, definitely, we all said we need some people who can really do some hard work and organization, not just for today, but for years to come. We need national plans that we can, no matter who is president, we can use that plan as a blueprint for where we want to go and emerge. Okay, because it shouldn't matter that somebody else is president. With the goals and the objectives and the needs of Liberia don't change that much. We know we have to be food sufficient. Okay, so every administration should be take a phase of that plan and implement it. Okay, I like to see. Definitely, we know we have people who can be who could come up with these plans. It requires research. I think we have to bite the bullet one day and allow and invest in the research is going to require that we can come up with national plans for education, for health, for agriculture, for everything. We need to do the research and produce a blueprint that every successful administration has that to guide them as they go along.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time, we went over our time by 1 minute, but I'm going to be short here. A reminder, we are going to be discussing a topic that is very difficult to discuss. It will take some introspection. It will take some honesty among ourselves. This is going to be a roundtable family talk next Sunday, where we are talking about female genital mutilation. Please join us. It's going to be a difficult topic, but it's a topic that we have to discuss. It's an issue that affects everybody. We have to discuss that. And finally, I want to send a congratulatory notice to our folks. As usual, we say we all Liberians stay focused for our Sunday primetime live with our CEO, Dennis Jar. God bless you and see you next Sunday. As usual, we say we are all Liberian, no matter who you are. Thank you for CDC for massive victory. And as usual, if we continue, we're going to have a one-round victory 2023. Operation one round, period. Thank you very much. As always, our song that takes us out, so we are all Liberians.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people. USA, all we want. Liberia, oh. USA, all we want. Liberia, Liberia.